There is a town on Lake Ontario where retirees quietly moved to get everything they thought they had to give up. Not a remote village, not a retirement complex in the middle of nowhere. A real town with a sandy beach, a historic downtown, and a train line that still connects you to Toronto in under 90 minutes. And yet somehow it remains overlooked. A place where the lifestyle feels expensive, but the math still works. The places we're about to show you aren't compromises, they're calculated upgrades. Towns where you keep the amenities, lose the chaos, and actually enjoy the pace of life again. Subscribe right now, because these are the kinds of places people wish they found 10 years earlier. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the one that has the best claim to a title. Goderich, on the eastern shore of Lake Huron in Huron County, has long been called the prettiest town in Canada, a phrase attributed variously to Queen Elizabeth II and to general cultural consensus, though the town is happy enough to claim it either way. What's beyond dispute is that when you drive into Goderich for the first time, the town makes a first impression that is genuinely difficult to shake. The layout alone is unusual. Goderich was planned in the 1820s with a central octagonal town square, the Courthouse Square, from which 8 streets radiate outward like the spokes of a wheel. It's the kind of urban design that was ambitious and idealistic when it was drawn up, and it has aged into something that feels timeless and walkable in a way that most Ontario small towns simply don't. The square is ringed with independent shops, bakeries, cafes, and services. There's a heritage bakery, Culbert's, that has been operating for over 130 years. On Saturday mornings, the farmers market fills the square. And then there's Lake Huron. Goderich sits at the mouth of the Maitland River with 3 beaches in town: Main Beach, Rotary Cove, and a dog-friendly option at St. Christopher's, and a 1.5-kilometer boardwalk along the waterfront. The sunsets over the lake are legitimately world-class. This isn't marketing copy. People come from across Ontario specifically to watch the sun go down from Goderich's bluffs. On a summer evening with the sky turning pink and gold over the water, you'll understand immediately why retirees who have found this town tend not to leave. For 2025, average sold home prices in Goderich sit around $590,000 to $620,000, meaningfully below Ontario's provincial average of around $800,000 and a fraction of Toronto prices. You'll find detached homes, bungalows ideal for single-floor retirement living, and established adult lifestyle communities on the bluffs overlooking the lake. For seniors who need more support, Harbor Hill Retirement Community offers a range of care levels with lake views. Alexandra Marine and General Hospital provides local acute care, and specialists hold regular clinics in town from London and Kitchener, both about 90 minutes away. The active senior community in Goderich is well organized. The Mackay Center for Seniors runs programs, socials, and volunteer opportunities year-round. In summer, a Highland Pipe Band performs weekly at Courthouse Square in a tradition called Pipe Down the Sun. There are 2 active theater groups, a heritage golf course, walking trails including the Tiger Dunlop Heritage Trail along the Maitland River to the Menesetung Bridge, which is one of the best easy walks in Ontario. The one honest trade-off: Goderich is more than an hour from the nearest major city. London and Kitchener are the closest options for specialized shopping, larger hospital services, or the full range of urban amenities. That distance is part of what keeps the prices where they are and the town feeling the way it does. For retirees who've spent decades in cities and are actively choosing to step back from that pace, the distance is the point. For those who need regular city access, it's worth factoring into the plan. Goderich doesn't advertise itself aggressively. It doesn't need to. The people who find it tend to stay, and the people who stay tend not to tell too many others. That's about as good a recommendation as a town can get, but as good as it sounds, it's nothing compared to this next town on our list. If Goderich owns the Lake Huron side of this conversation, Perth does the same thing for Eastern Ontario. It's a small town of about 6,000 people in Lanark County, about 80 kilometers southwest of Ottawa, and it is one of those places that makes you stop the car and get out before you've even found parking. Perth was settled in 1816 as a planned military town after the War of 1812, and its heritage streetscape has been remarkably well preserved. The downtown core along Gore Street and Foster Street is lined with limestone buildings dating to the early 19th century. Actual 200-year-old stone architecture, not replicas. housing independent restaurants, antique shops, art galleries, and boutiques. The Tay Canal runs through the heart of town. Its locks and waterway connecting Perth to the Rideau Canal System, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that stretches from Kingston to Ottawa. In summer, boats come through. In winter, parts of the canal freeze into skating trails. About 30% of Perth's population is over 65, already above Ontario's average, which tells you something about how reliably retirees have been finding this town for decades. The median home price in Perth sits around $540,000, with detached homes ranging from the $400,000s up to $700,000 and above, depending on heritage features and lot size. One-bedroom homes and smaller bungalows come in below $400,000. For anyone selling out of Toronto, Ottawa, or another major Ontario market, the equity freed up by that price difference is transformative. Healthcare is anchored by the Perth and Smiths Falls District Hospital right in town, offering emergency care, inpatient services, and outpatient clinics. Being 80 kilometers from Ottawa also means that Ottawa's world-class hospital system, including the Ottawa Hospital, THEO, and the Queensway Carleton, is a relatively quick drive when more specialized care is needed. That proximity to Ottawa without actually being in Ottawa is one of Perth's most practical advantages. You get small-town prices and small-town pace, with a major city close enough for the things a small town can't provide. Retirement living options in Perth range from independent bungalows and condos to full-service retirement residences like Lanark Lifestyles, which combines luxury apartments with a retirement residence in one community on the edge of town. The social fabric is active: the Perth Farmers Market, the Festival of the Maples in spring, the Studio Tour, the outdoor concert series in Stewart Park through the summer months. The Perth Golf and Curling Club operates year-round. There is a legitimate sense of community here that you can feel within about 48 hours of arriving. Perth is the kind of town that shows up in articles about hidden gems and then immediately goes back to being a hidden gem because the people who found it prefer it that way. The town is small enough that new arrivals get noticed and welcomed, and established enough in its retirement identity that the infrastructure for a comfortable, engaged senior life is genuinely there. You think that was impressive? Well, get ready to have your mind blown by this next place. Prince Edward County, or the county, as everyone who lives there calls it, is one of those places that keeps getting discovered and never quite gets crowded, partly because it's a peninsula surrounded by Lake Ontario on 3 sides, which naturally limits the density of development, and partly because its residents have developed a particular fondness for things staying exactly as they are. Picton is the county town and main hub, a walkable small city of about 5,000 people with a proper main street, a hospital, a growing collection of excellent restaurants, a farmer's market, and the slightly delirious energy of a place that has gone from a quiet agricultural county to one of Ontario's premier wine and food destinations in the span of about 15 years. Condé Nast and Maclean's Magazine have both designated Prince Edward County a top retirement destination. Maclean's compared it to California in the 1970s, where good food, wine, and the arts come together without the pretension. The wine angle is real and worth dwelling on. The county now has over 40 wineries. The combination of limestone-rich soils and a climate moderated by the surrounding lake has produced a terroir particularly well-suited to Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. For retirees who enjoy wine, and statistically, a significant proportion of the people watching this video do, the idea of living 15 minutes from 40 wineries, being able to cycle between them on country roads, and knowing the winemakers personally because this is a small county is a quality of life proposition that's hard to match anywhere else in Ontario. There is also Sandbanks Provincial Park, one of the most visited parks in Ontario, which sits right in the county and features the world's largest freshwater sand dune system. Dunes that rise 25 meters above Lake Ontario and drop into beaches of fine pale sand and warm shallow water. Having access to a park of that quality as part of your everyday landscape is something that residents genuinely never take for granted. Housing in Prince Edward County has appreciated significantly over the last decade, driven by exactly the kind of discovery we're describing here. The average home price in the county sits around $750,000 in 2025, with waterfront and premium wine country properties exceeding $1 million. That puts PC be at the higher end of this list in terms of affordability. However, rural homes and fixer-uppers in smaller communities within the county, Milford, Sophiasburg, Bloomfield, can still be found in the $500,000 range, and the lifestyle per dollar remains among the best in Ontario. Healthcare is provided by Peck Memorial Hospital in Picton for acute and emergency care, with Belleville General Hospital, about 25 minutes away, providing a broader range of services. Remarkably, Prince Edward County has one of the highest doctor-to-patient ratios in Canada, approximately 5 doctors per 1,000 residents, compared to Toronto's 2 per 1,000. For seniors, that ratio means something practical. You can actually get a family doctor here, which is not something you can say about every Ontario community in 2025. For active retirees, Peak has cycling trails, kayaking, hiking, cross-country skiing, golf, and a community events calendar that runs 52 weeks of the year. The art scene, galleries, studios, theater, music is disproportionately vibrant for the county's size. Picton is 2.5 hours from Toronto and the same from Ottawa, which puts it in that strategic zone of close enough to visit easily, far enough to feel genuinely separate. But if you think that was retirement paradise, then you would want to see this next haven. There is a standard formula for a successful retirement town in Ontario. Take a community with some natural beauty, add healthcare infrastructure, sprinkle in some walkability, and let the word spread. Stratford follows that formula, and then quietly adds a world-famous theater festival, a swan-lined river, an architecture preservation ethic that keeps the downtown looking like 1890 in the best possible way, and a food scene that has produced more professional chefs per capita than almost anywhere in the country. Stratford, population around 32,000, sits on the Avon River in southwestern Ontario, about an hour and a half from both Toronto and London. It has been home to the Stratford Festival since 1953, when director Tyrone Guthrie and designer Tanya Moisewicz launched what was intended as a single summer season and accidentally created one of the largest and most prestigious theater festivals in the world. The festival now draws over 400,000 visitors a year to productions that run from Shakespeare to contemporary work to musicals in a purpose-built complex of 4 theaters that is the artistic heart of the city. For retirees who care about culture, about having access to genuinely world-class live performance as a regular part of their lives, not just on a special trip to Toronto, Stratford offers something that is nearly impossible to find in a small Ontario town anywhere else. You can walk to the theater from your house. You can subscribe to a season's worth of plays the way other people subscribe to a streaming service. You can have a glass of wine in the park before the show and watch the swans float past. This is not a hypothetical retirement activity. This is what Stratford retirees actually do on Thursday evenings in July. The food scene deserves its own mention. Stratford is home to the Stratford Chef School, one of Canada's premier culinary training programs, and the graduating classes, combined with the talent drawn to the city by the festival, have built a restaurant landscape that punches well above a city of 32,000's weight. On a good weekend in Stratford, you can eat as well as you can anywhere in the province. Average home prices in Stratford sit around $570,000 to $680,000 in 2025, meaningfully below the provincial average and dramatically below Toronto. Bungalows and smaller detached homes suitable for retirement living come in at the lower end of that range. Stratford General Hospital provides acute and emergency care locally. Retirement communities, including Cedarcroft Place Retirement Residence, offer a range of independent and assisted living options. The trade-off in Stratford is that the festival brings significant tourism from April through November, which energizes the town and supports its food and retail economy, but also means summer weekends have a different character than weekday evenings in winter. Residents navigate this easily. Stratford has been a festival town for 70 years and knows how to be both a tourist destination and a real community simultaneously. But if you're someone who wants absolute quiet year-round, this is worth knowing for retirees who want culture, community, walkability, good food, and a housing market that makes the Toronto math work in their favor. Stratford is one of the strongest cases on this entire list. Another strong case is the next town on our list, Lake Ontario, a Victorian beach town and one of the best kept secrets on the 401. Cobourg sits on Lake Ontario, about 100 kilometers east of Toronto, about an hour to 90 minutes depending on traffic. And it is, in many ways, the ideal compromise town for retirees who aren't quite ready to leave Southern Ontario's gravitational pull, but can no longer justify Southern Ontario's prices. The town has a population of about 20,000 and a median age of around 53.8, making it one of the oldest communities demographically in Ontario, which tells you that the retirees who found it have been finding it for a long time. About 37% of Cobourg residents are over 65. This is not a coincidence. This is the result of decades of people making a very rational calculation. Lake Ontario Beach, Victorian architecture, full amenities, an hour from Toronto, fraction of the price. The beach is the centerpiece. Cobourg Beach is a broad, sandy, Blue Flag certified beach right at the foot of the main street, backed by a band shell where concerts run through the summer, a boardwalk, and the kind of lakefront park that a town of 20,000 has absolutely no business having. Victoria Hall, the town's 1860 town hall and concert venue, a limestone Renaissance revival building so grand that it makes visitors assume Cobourg was once a much larger city. It was once briefly the capital of Ontario. Anchors the heritage downtown. Average home prices in Cobourg sit around $747,000 to $880,000 in 2025, depending on the source and property type. Higher than some other entries on this list, reflecting the town's proximity to Toronto and its genuine desirability. That said, the spread within Cobourg is significant. Condos and smaller homes come in well below those figures, and the equity unlocked by leaving the GTA still makes the purchase math work for most retirees selling out of Toronto or Mississauga. Healthcare is well served by Northumberland Hills Hospital, which provides a full range of acute care services. Retirement communities, including Rosewood Estates, Gracious Retirement Living, and Cobourg Retirement Residence, give seniors the full spectrum of independent and supported living options. The Active Lifestyle Seniors Center runs programming, activities, and social events for adults 55 and over. Via rail trains pass through Cobourg multiple times daily on the Toronto-Montreal corridor, which means a day trip to Toronto for a medical appointment, a concert, a visit with family is as easy as buying a train ticket. For retirees who value mobility without needing to own 2 cars and navigate city traffic, that rail connection is a meaningful practical advantage. Cobourg's character is genuinely Victorian resort town. Unhurried, proud of its history, oriented toward the lake, with a social calendar built around the beach and the band shell and the Saturday farmers market. In summer, it fills with day trippers from Toronto who've discovered the beach. In September, it settles back into itself, and residents who've been quietly avoiding the parking situation reclaim their town. It's a rhythm that most Cobourg retirees describe with something close to satisfaction. Think that was fascinating? Wait until you see the next town that made the list. Pembroke doesn't get written about much in the retirement press, which is exactly why it's on this list. It sits on the Ottawa River in the Ottawa Valley, about 150 kilometers west of Ottawa, and it offers a combination of natural beauty, full municipal services, solid healthcare, and housing prices that make it one of the most genuinely affordable retirement options in the province. Average home prices in Pembroke sit around $475,000, comfortably below Ontario's provincial average of $800,000 and among the lowest of any mid-sized Ontario town with a full-service hospital. For retirees on a fixed income, or for those who want to maximize the lifestyle their retirement savings can buy, that number matters a great deal. The Ottawa River is Pembroke's dominant geographical feature, and it is spectacular in the way that only a large Canadian river can be. The Pembroke Waterfront Park and Marina stretch along the river with walking paths, river views, benches, and a summer concert series. The Algonquin Trail, a 248-kilometer multi-use path, connects Pembroke to communities throughout the Ottawa Valley, offering cycling, hiking, and skiing for active seniors. Algonquin Provincial Park is less than an hour's drive, putting one of Canada's great wilderness destinations effectively in the backyard. Pembroke Regional Hospital provides acute and emergency care, including a full emergency department, surgical services, and inpatient care. The Ottawa Valley's healthcare network means that for more specialized treatment, Ottawa's hospitals are a 2-hour drive. The Upper Ottawa Valley Heritage Center celebrates the region's logging and settlement history, giving the area a cultural anchor that many similarly priced towns lack. The Ottawa Valley has a distinct cultural identity. English and French coexisting, with a strong Irish and Scottish settler heritage that shows up in the music, the community events, and the general character of the people. The valley is known for its friendliness. In a specific, unhurried, you'll be on first name basis within a week way that retirees coming from anonymous suburbs find genuinely refreshing. Pembroke is not glamorous. It does not have a world-famous festival or a wine trail or a Victorian waterfront district. What it has is affordability, a river, a hospital, honest community, and access to some of the best wilderness in Ontario within a short drive. For retirees who prioritize outdoor life, value for money, and a community where people actually talk to each other, Pembroke is one of the most underrated options in the province. This next town is not just underrated, it is literally the gateway to the Thousand Islands and one of Ontario's best kept retirement gems. Gananoque is a small town of about 5,000 people at the eastern end of Lake Ontario, where the St. Lawrence River begins, and the Thousand Islands archipelago spreads out in one of the most remarkable freshwater landscapes in the world. The Thousand Islands are not a metaphor. There are, depending on how you count them, over 1,800 islands in the St. Lawrence River between Ontario and New York State. They range from massive islands with full-scale Victorian castles to tiny rock outcroppings with a single tree. The area has been a tourist and boating destination since the Gilded Age, when Cornelius Vanderbilt and other American industrialists built their summer retreats on the islands. Bolt Castle, built on Hart Island by millionaire George Bolt for his wife, abandoned mid-construction when she died in 1904, and now one of the most visited historic sites in the region, is visible from Gananoque's waterfront on a clear day. For retirees, Gananoque offers a lifestyle built around the water in a way that few Ontario towns can match. The Gananoque Boat Line operates guided cruises through the islands throughout the summer season, a 45-minute trip that remains genuinely breathtaking for residents who've done it dozens of times. Joel Stone Heritage Park along the waterfront has walking paths, gardens, and a swimming area. The boating community is active and social. If you own a boat or want to own one, Gananoque is a destination in its own right. Housing in Gananoque is more affordable than its tourism profile might suggest, with average prices around $550,000 to $650,000, and a range of property types from heritage homes on the main streets to newer bungalows on the outskirts. The town's position, about 30 kilometers from Kingston, which has a full regional hospital, Kingston Health Sciences Center, and all the urban amenities of a city of 135,000, gives Gananoque the practical advantages of proximity without the prices. Kingston is close enough for healthcare, shopping, and services, far enough that Gananoque keeps its own identity and pace. The 1,000 Islands History Museum tells the layered story of the region, from indigenous history through the settler era and the Gilded Age retreats. The town has a theater, independent restaurants, a craft brewery, and the specific pleasant busyness of a tourist town in summer that settles into a quieter, more local rhythm by October. Retirees who've chosen Gananoque consistently describe it as the best of both. Summer energy and winter calm in a landscape that is genuinely extraordinary year-round. Think you have seen it all? Not quite. This next town will make you want to retire early. Lindsay is the main town of the city of Kawartha Lakes, a sprawling municipality in central Ontario that encompasses over 250 lakes, the Trent Severn Waterway, rolling countryside, and a quality of life that has been drawing retirees quietly and consistently for decades. The town itself has a population of about 22,000 and serves as the service hub for the broader Kawartha region. The Kawarthas, for anyone not familiar, are cottage country, the stretch of Ontario between the GTA and Muskoka, where generations of Southern Ontario families have spent summers on lakes, in boats, fishing for bass and pickerel, and doing all the things that Ontarians mean when they say they're going to the lake. The difference in Lindsay and the Kawarthas compared to, say, Muskoka is price. Muskoka's cottage country is expensive, very expensive, and getting more so. Kawartha Lakes has maintained a more accessible market, and for retirees who want to live year-round in a lakes and trails environment without Muskoka prices, it's the rational choice. Average home prices in the Kawartha Lakes region sit around $680,000 to $860,000, depending on the area and property type, with Lindsay itself generally at the lower end of that range for non-waterfront properties. Waterfront on the smaller Kawartha Lakes can be more, but still comes in well below comparable Muskoka waterfront. waterfront. Lindsay has real cultural infrastructure for a town of its size. The Flato Academy Theater for Performing Arts brings professional productions, concerts, and community shows to the area year-round. The Victoria Rail Trail, a former railway converted to a multi-use path, runs for kilometers through the region, connecting communities through flat, easy cycling countryside that's ideal for active seniors. Ross Memorial Hospital in Lindsay provides full acute care services. The Trent Severn Waterway, which passes through the Kawarthas, is a 386-kilometer historic canal system that connects Lake Ontario at Trenton to Georgian Bay at Port Severn with 44 locks. It is one of Canada's great recreational waterways, and having access to it as a boater, kayaker, or simply a walker along its lock tender paths is an extraordinary feature of retirement life in this region. Lindsay is 2 hours from Toronto, far enough to have escaped significant price appreciation from GTA spillover, close enough that family visits or city day trips are manageable. It is a town with a working class, community-forward character that has none of the self-conscious artisanal energy of some more fashionable retirement destinations. And for many retirees, that straightforwardness is exactly what makes it feel like home. Speaking of straightforwardness, nobody's going to be straightforward with you about how incredible this next town is, but we will. Almonte in the municipality of Mississippi Mills is 25 kilometers west of Ottawa, which puts it in the zone of genuinely rural Ontario while remaining thoroughly connected to Canada's capital city. It has a population of about 5,000 people, a downtown centered on the Mississippi River and its historic 19th century stone mill buildings, and a character that is simultaneously historic, artsy, community-minded, and deeply relaxed. The town's mill history is visible in its architecture. Almonte grew as a textile manufacturing center in the mid-1800s, and the large stone mill buildings along the river have been converted into apartments, restaurants, event spaces, and studios. The riverfront has parks, walking trails, and the photogenic falls where the Mississippi River drops in the middle of town. Not the Mississippi in the southern United States, but Ontario's own Mississippi River, equally dramatic in its own way. For retirees, Almonte offers something specific, the quality of life of a culturally rich, physically beautiful small town, at a price that reflects proximity to Ottawa without matching it. Average home prices in Mississippi Mills run around $550,000 to $650,000, meaningfully less than Ottawa's suburban prices and dramatically below the national conversation about housing costs. The equity gap for someone selling out of Ottawa, Canada, or Nepean and buying in Almonte is real money that translates directly into retirement security. Almonte has become known in the Ottawa Valley as a retirement and artisan community. The Almonte Civitan Arts Center and a strong roster of local galleries, craft studios, and performance spaces mean the cultural offering is genuinely above average for a town of this size. The annual Almonte Celt Fest and various community festivals give the town a social calendar with real energy. Tea houses, cafes, and independent restaurants, notably along Mill Street and Bridge Street, give the downtown the kind of everyday walkable quality that retirees consistently rank near the top of their priorities. Healthcare relies on the Carleton Place and District Memorial Hospital, about 10 kilometers away in neighboring Carleton Place, and on the full array of Ottawa's hospital system within a 30-minute drive. The Ottawa Hospital, SACHEO, the Ottawa Heart Institute, the Queensway Carleton, all within practical reach, which is a significant practical advantage that many smaller Ontario towns can't offer. Almonte is one of those towns that once you've spent a weekend there, you start doing real estate math in your head without quite having planned to. That's the most reliable sign that a place belongs on a retirement haven list. And lastly, our last haven on the list is truly impressive by all metrics. We're closing with the one that's perhaps the best known on the list, and including it anyway, because best known and well understood as a retirement destination are not the same thing. Many Ontarians know Collingwood as a ski town, a weekend destination, a place you go for Blue Mountain in January or Wasaga Beach in July. What fewer people appreciate is that Collingwood is also one of the most thoughtfully developed retirement communities in the province, and that the outdoor lifestyle that draws weekend visitors makes it an exceptional year-round home for active seniors. Collingwood sits on the southern tip of Georgian Bay, at the base of the Niagara Escarpment, with a population of about 24,000 and a median age of 48.9, already well above the provincial average, reflecting the significant and growing senior community here. About 30% of Collingwood residents are over 65. The outdoor infrastructure is the headline. Blue Mountain, just minutes from town, has 42 ski runs, a vertical drop of 220 meters, and an extended shoulder season with mountain biking, hiking, and zip lining from spring through.